Hello, songwriter friends. Today we're going to take a look at The Point of No Return from Phantom of the Opera.
Past the point of no return, no backward glances or games of make-believe are at an end. Past all thought of if or when, no use resisting. Abandon thought and let the dream descend. What raging fire shall flood the soul? What rich desire unlocks its door? What sweet seduction lies before us?
This is a very sensual song. A friend of mine recently said that the song was her sexual awakening, so take from that what you will. I'm going to skip the first part, the whole "you have come here," because it's a bunch of chord playing. It's not super interesting from a theory point of view. And we'll dive right into this whole past the point of no return, no backward glances, our games of make-believe are at an end. Okay. Oh, so good. So there's a bunch of stuff going on this first page. The second page is going to be the real deep dive here, but let's take this apart. So we're in F minor to begin with, F minor. Our scale looks like this. 4 black notes, A flat, B flat, D flat, and E flat. So our dominant's going to be C major. Now if we stayed in the key, a diatonic chord would be C minor, because that E flat that makes C minor. But when we're doing C as the dominant, meaning we're using it to go back to the tonic, we're going to make it major, because we really like when that note goes up a half step to the tonic. Otherwise it's not quite as strong versus, we like that T-do sound. So that's going to be our chord. And then oftentimes in Western music, your dominant, you'll embellish it, make it even stronger by using a dominant 7, using that B flat in there, that minor 7th. Okay, so keep that in mind. Those are the two kind of main chords to think about as we dig into this. So we're going to start off in 1, the minor. Past the point. We're going to go right to that dominant 7. We're going to take the B flat and put it below. So past the point of no return, no backward glances. We'll get to that in a second. One thing to notice here is that in the left hand, we're just doing a drone, 1 and 5 from F minor. A drone's very, it's folk music. Viola would use a drone, bagpipes use a drone. Throughout history, people have realized that if you have your tonic note on a drone, you can play whatever else you want, and all of it sounds good over the tonic because all those chords only make sense relative to the tonic. So hearing it the whole time, even if it would technically clash, tends to work. That's how drones work. So he's kind of doing that here. In music theory, we call it a pedal tone. It just means drone. It's the same basic idea. So the pedal tone here is F and C. So in the left hand, he's doing, even though there's no F in this C dominant 7, we're going to play it down here anyway. That's how pedal tones work. And it sounds kind of cool, right? So that's what's going on there. No backward glances. So now we're going to mix in an F major chord. Okay, and we'll see why we're doing that in a second, but it's important in this song, there's a fair amount of modal mixture. Modal mixture means when you're in one mode. In Western music, we tend to only use major and minor. Those are modes, but there's a bunch of modes. We've kind of narrowed it down to major and minor. But when we talk about modes, those are 2 of them. And so a modal mixture tends to mean if you're in major, you're using chords from the minor scale. If you're in minor, you're pulling in chords from the major scale. So in this case, we're pulling in the tonic, the 1 chord, as a major, right? And it has an interesting effect. So we established F minor. If we kept F minor, if we stayed in the key. Past the point of no return, no backward glances, right? Nothing's changed there. You can tell you're still in the key. But instead he goes, glances, he really brightens it up by taking that F minor and making it major. Because after all, what makes a chord minor is the 3rd. So if you lower it, it's minor. If you raise it, it's major. So a little half-step rise. Now, why he decided to emphasize glances, I don't know. But it almost sounds like he's going no backward glances, because you're expecting that, and you hear that glances. It almost sounds like a slide, right? So I don't know. Anyway, it puts a lift on that note. So the next note is it's sung is an E flat. So this chord really should be called an F dominant 7. Now, when we see a dominant 7 chord, for the most part, what that means is we're about to go down by a fifth. In Western music, for the most part, when you see a dominant 7, that's what it's going to be used for, is to really set you up to go down by a fifth. So, let's see what happens. He goes to a D flat. Make believe or an end. So what's going on there? That's kind of weird. Let's try a B flat. Let's see if you had used a B flat. Well, how would it sound? Our games of make believe are at an end. That sounds pretty good to me, right? It certainly doesn't sound wrong, and it would go along with the dominant 7 thing. And it also kind of shows us that there's probably something going on behind the scenes here, because if we do swap in B flat, so and then look what the next chord is. It's an E flat, which is down a fifth. And then we go down to the A flat. Okay, so it's almost like he just swapped in the D flat for the B flat, but otherwise he knew it was a circle of fifths progression, right? Okay, well, cool. It looks like you can do that because it sounds cool. Why would he do that? Like, why? What was he doing there? Well, there's a few different ways to look at that. One way to look at it is that the kind of where we're landing is A flat here, okay? Like that's kind of the end, right? That's the word, that's kind of the end of the thaw right there. Because then he does this whole and we're back to that. But that's the end of the momentary thought. So that's kind of our landing spot. And it's a pretty good landing spot because it's a relative major, okay? So landing there for a moment, we're using all the same notes, right? Relative major means you're using the same notes, you're just starting at a different spot in the key. So for example, if we were in A minor, the relative major would be C major. All white keys, right? So you're using all the same notes. So the relative major of your minor key sounds really cozy because you're not changing any notes, okay? So sitting in A flat for a minute, A flat major, feels pretty good. And it's a nice way to kind of lighten the mood for a second in a minor key to land in your relative major and to be like, look, here's the bright side of it. We've shifted moods. We were talking about something, but we're going to look at it from a more positive angle. Okay, cool. Well, what's a great way to emphasize any sense of tonic? Well, a tidy way to do it is to go 4-5-1, right? Just like any pop progression. So if you're going to do 4-5-1 in A flat, and for a moment make us feel like that's home, which we're going to totally upset with us here, but for a second he wants you to feel like you're home in A flat. Well, 4-5-1 in A flat is D flat, E flat, A flat, D flat, E flat, A flat. Well, what chords did we just use from here? D flat to E flat to A flat. So he kind of swapped in that D flat to give you a 4-5-1 to really drive home this notion that A flat is our sense of home for a moment, okay? Just specifically so that he can upset you by changing this and going back to F minor. Okay, cool. Well, so that's one advantage. That's one reason he did it. I would argue another reason is because Andrew Lloyd Webber really likes ninths. Okay, so we're singing this note, right? If we sing it over a B flat, it's an 11th, okay? Because it's if it's B flat minor to 4, it's the 4th note above B flat, right? And so when you cast that high, it becomes an 11th. Now that has a certain sound to it. It's an interesting sound, right? Let's do the no, right? It's evocative. It's got some emotion to it. But now let's swap in the D flat and see what happens. Ooh. Right? That hits different. That hits more nostalgic or something. So ninths are funny. Andrew, if you know Sunset Boulevard.
With one look, I can break your heart. With one look, I play every part.
No, I don't know the notes, but if you want to know the chords of that song, all you got to do is pick chords where the melody note is a ninth. So D flat, with one look, da, da, B flat, da, da, boom. E flat, D, 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 right? So he loves that ninth sound. So I think that's probably part of the reason he decided to do that is because he thinks it's prettier. But it also serves that function of briefly tonicizing the A flat, so you feel like you're home someplace safe for a moment before he rips the rug out from underneath you, and we go back to the F minor. Okay, cool. So let's talk about this chord, which is a really beautiful thing, right? Well, he got to A flat, which is the relative major of F minor. And he needs to get to F minor. Now he could have just done it, right? And pass. So that doesn't sound bad, right? You can do that because it's got these two shared notes. And anytime you've got two notes in common between chords, you can kind of change those chords and the ear will for the most part accept it. Not too much has happened. In fact, an F minor 7 just has an A flat in it. So he could have done that, right? But he wanted to really emphasize the trip back to F minor. So he's like, okay, I'm here. Let's go to the dominant. So he could have just done that. Okay, so like, cool, we get it. Like, we're heading back to F minor because C major is not in A flat, right? And A flat would be a C minor. So just giving you a C major tells you something's up, something's about to happen. And if your ear is used to Western music, what's about to happen is you're probably going to go to the relative minor. Okay, so that's a little bit jarring all by itself. But not enough. He wanted more. He wanted more. So a C7 flat 9. So the C dominant 7 is built into that. Okay, so if we put a C dominant 7 in there, that does give a little more tension. Okay, we're getting there. We're getting some tension. But he wanted full blast tension, so he threw in the flat 9. Well, okay, we've still got the C major, but let's look what's happening on top here. We've got a G diminished chord. Takes it, and so he's essentially taking advantage of this G diminished to F minor. Now G diminished is the 2 chord of an F minor scale. Let's look at it in A minor just for ease. The 2 chord is going to be diminished, B, D, F. Anytime you're in a minor scale, your 2 chord's going to be diminished. So just going from that to that feels like a nice resolution. Now, the diminished chords are pretty tense, and then you go to the minor. So it's not like a crazy tug back home, but you can use it. Well, okay, so let's look at what else is going on here. If you look in the middle of this chord, you've got an E diminished chord, which wants to move up to F minor. Okay, so that's more crunchy tension moving to F minor. So now you've got G diminished moving down, E diminished moving up, and C major moving down as a dominant to F minor. So we've now got 3 things pulling at it at once. So he's just created a lot of tension to get back to your tonic of F minor. Another way to look at this is an E diminished 7 chord, which is like bracketing. See how this is on either side of F? And you've got this that can move up a half step like that. So you've got 3 half steps that can move up to F minor. Okay, so 2 takeaways from this. Anytime you want to go back to your minor tonic and you don't want to just go 5-1, try the the diminished 7th chord a half step below. And if you don't like that, try a full step above. If you don't like that, try a half step below. And all of those are motions that can give you a sort of like sense of dominant to get back to the F minor. If you're tired of just doing 5-1, those are nice ways of doing it. Now he combined all of those powers together by doing the 5-1 in the bass, and then this diminished 7th around his F minor. So that's why that feels so good, right? So you get it. This is a dominant 7 here, a dominant here, back to the F minor. Okay, and now we're back here. So he just does it again. Okay, now he's going to take A flat, which is our relative major, right? And he's going to make it a dominant 7 up here, actually. Now what happens when we have a dominant 7 is we're about to go down by 5th. So we're going to make that a separate section of this video. I'll talk about it in just a moment.